Steven, I think you're on.
I agree.
I'm sorry, I must be on a delay here. Welcome to another episode of Industrial Strength Podcast, a podcast more focused on industrial fire departments and industrial hazmat response. I'm Steve, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts, Jeff and Randy.
Yeah, hey, my name is Randy, hazmat specialist with 17 years on industrial fire department, mainly doing hazmat.
And my name is Jeff. I'm a hazmat technician with over 20 years of fire department experience and 10 being in the industrial side. The last episode, we talked about the changes to the NFPA 470, really, which deals with specifically the hazmat teams.
Yes.
And what some of those changes were and the effects of those changes. I think this week we're going to be diving into some of the upcoming changes to the OSHA standard. We all love OSHA, but specifically this one's going to be the 1910.156, and that will have a wide-ranging application if it's implemented as proposed.
Yeah, agreed. So last week we dealt with the NFPA side of things, which really touches on a lot of municipal departments, where this week that OSHA is really the heart of what industrial departments have to deal with. Yeah.
So, really, as of, February 2024, OSHA did do a lot of changes proposed. I don't think they've gone through yet. They proposed a lot of changes. Steve, do you want to talk about those?
Sure. These changes are pretty significant changes for fire brigades standard. I believe it's 29 CFR 1910-156, which is going to be transforming into a broader emergency response standard across the board. The proposed set of rules and requirements will now incorporate various NFPA standards, which for a lot of us, you may or may not have been following those already as it is, but now it's going to be for everyone who wasn't as well.
Yeah.
And those are going to have changes that incorporate PPE, training, and medical surveillance programs.
Yeah, you're right. So
which is actually the medical part is new already. And
Maybe I lost Jeff. So I think what Jeff was trying to say was that that original standard, the 156, just primarily dealt with industrial fire department teams, industrial brigades. And now this new standard incorporates everybody. So it incorporates incorporates Jeff, who's back, but also so fire, hazmat, confined space, or not just confined space, technical rescue teams, and medical. So this new proposed standard touches all industrial teams. So Steve, what was the driver you think behind this?
I believe that.
I can't.
Sorry, Jeff, you there?
Allegedly. We'll see.
Oh my gosh, I'm trying, and where are we at?
I was asking Steve, why does he think OSHA changed the rules, right? Because that old 156 standard had been around for forever, right? So we're talking decades upon decades. So why change now?
Oh yeah. Well, I think most of it's a good change. The medical surveillance. I think that's a really good thing for the hazmat side of things. Fire departments have had that for many years. The amount of chemicals and all the nasty stuff that hazmat responders deal with, whether you're just on a hazmat side or a fire department side, is tremendous. So that surveillance is going to be really good.
So we're gonna talk about that a little more further down. But you're right; it's a much broader medical surveillance for everybody, right? So right, just not just firefighters anymore. So because that cancer risk, especially in industrial facilities, is huge.
Yep.
Yeah, OSHA did recognize the need to strengthen that preparedness for a wider range of emergencies and, to address the gaps in protection for emergency responders. Being, again, that's more than just firefighting it. There's there's a lot more involved with that. And it aims to expand that scope of standard beyond just firefighters. EMS workers, they have a lot of stuff that they deal with, and search and rescue and everything. It just covers that broader range of the hazards.
Yep. Agreed.
Yep. So I think Jeff kind of touched base on the new driver for why we're changing it. But
what's your thoughts there, Randy? Since Steve might be out.
No, I can hear Steve. I think he's still here. So
yeah.
So I think you hit the nail on the head that they're trying to capture a bunch of hazards that may have been missed or weren't accounted for earlier on. But, they're trying to bring all the teams in-house. And this standard just isn't industrial anymore. It's municipal and industrial. It's actually folding everyone together into one big group. But I think what's going to be really interesting is some of the key proposed changes. So, one of the ones I'm thinking about is the expanded scope like we've been talking about. So initially that 156 standard was just narrowly focused on industrial fire brigades. But now this standard envelops everybody: municipal, industrial, EMS, hazmat, fire, technical rescue. That is a much broader scope of application than it was before. Which is
but let's not forget the industrial side, which some of us are, and also the volunteer brigades within the emergency response. So
so it's catching all those municipal, like you're right, the full timers and the volley on calls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's the new name of this going to be? Because it always used to just be fire brigades.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, they've broadened that thing out. I think it's just called emergency response.
Yeah. So we are actually a fire brigade. Included within the hazmat, and it's all emergency response now.
Yeah.
So the incorporation of the standards is 21 NFPA standards, which will be incorporated in the whole or part. There's 14 additional NFPA standards, which will inform the structure and requirements.
Yeah. So they're rolling in a whole bunch of, and this is a good thing, a whole bunch of NFPA standards, right? And also beyond NFPA standards. So there's a whole lot more rigorous rules and methodologies now coming in with this new set of guidelines for us, which I think is going to be a good thing. Because once again,
for the most part, I mean, some of the things I wonder about are what's up with the 2 and 2 out. Are they going to change that? That's going to be an issue because we've grown up. I mean, I've been in this for 20 some years. It's always been 2 in, 2 out. I see issues with that.
So for those who aren't familiar, Steve, you want to kind of tell them about what the change is that's been proposed in the new standard?
Yeah, so as Jeff was alluding to, the 2 in, 2 out rule that we've always adhered to is whenever you have a call, you'd have minimum 2 guys going in and 2 guys right behind them as a backup entry team. Now, the new proposal is kind of removing that requirement, and it's going to open it up a lot for some liabilities for people who don't choose to continue using that option.
Right.
It's going to bring increased risk, injury, and possibly even death. I mean, if you only send 1 guy in or 2 guys in with 1 guy as a backup for rescue, that could lead to some hairy scenarios.
It can, right? I can see where maybe if you're dropping the 2 in, 2 out rule, you're gaining some speed on initial entry if you're trying to do like saves. But if you don't have the backup for the guys going in, and you're right, something goes wrong, you're waiting a much longer time to get them out, and that's a lot of liability. Hope is never a good plan. Put it like that.
Right.
So those departments actually drop doing 2 in, 2 out, man. While it's not mandated anymore, that's going to be a huge liability on them. You have to prove that it was the right thing to do, I think.
Absolutely.
So
now, another thing is going to be the emergency response program.
That's a big component, yeah.
Yeah. where employers, particularly workplace emergency response employers such as industrial departments and emergency service organizations, will be required to establish and implement comprehensive emergency response programs.
Yeah.
So
what kind of
we
programs,
do a pretty
Steve?
good job of this already, personally.
Yeah. But for those who may not know what it is or how they work, man, why don't you kind of break down for us what an emergency response program does?
Okay, so for workplace response employers, we're typically industrial fire departments or brigades and more of a really private industry, where those emergency services are your traditional municipal departments. Those include the federal agencies, military bases, and just your local fire departments.
Yep.
Now, under the emergency response program, each employer would be responsible for the creation of their own response plans. And those plans would be required to ensure safe response to both emergency and non-emergency situations. So for us, we have specific plans per operating unit within the facility. And those are broken down with specific hazard chemicals that those specific buildings deal with, and what kind of a response we have to each different chemical. And then it rolls on up to our overall site emergency plan for us responders. And we use those individual business plans when we respond to the call and help kind of dictate what we may or may not do on that individual call.
Yeah. I think those individual plans you're talking about kind of fall under a risk management plan, which is probably the broader category. And that should also be under emergency response plans, right? So like when we have those chemical specific plans, it's a way of managing risk for high danger or high potency issues. So, and that's something else that's new in the standard, where when people are developing this, having to implement this standard, they have to come up with these plans with these risk mitigation strategies. So, but luckily I don't think it's tied down where it has to be like chemical specific, but you at least have to plan something for each place, right?
Absolutely.
So if it's a chemical or a fire or something, you got to start thinking about planning. Pre-plan for sure, which is pre-plans for some fire departments have done for forever. So for them, it's not going to be anything new. But for industrial teams, if they haven't done any pre-plans, they're going to get a rude awakening because now they have to start doing them en masse.
Absolutely.
But pre-plan, fuck.
Welcome back,
Pre-planning
Jeff.
for a smaller department is going to be very hard.
Yes.
I'm trying, man. I'm really, really trying.
Because the pre-plans can be pretty labor intensive, and if you don't have a ton of people to begin with, it's not coming out of thin air.
Funny, it's a huge fund. There's a lot of funding that takes. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, well, because you got to train someone how to do pre-plans, right? So either hire someone or train someone, and then you got to provide the time and hours, and depending on
how
complex a site is, it can take a long time to do pre-plans.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like a full-time job.
You've got to include those details about the unusual hazards and safety of the systems too, which if you don't have on-site chemists that know their reactions and higher safety groups within the company that have a pretty good understanding of what you're doing, that can be an expensive task for an outside agency to come in and do for you.
Agreed. Also, one other thing I thought was super interesting with the emergency response planning or the program was... Oh, go ahead. Okay, or not.
But even with that pre-plan, all right. So now you have to come up with an SOP.
Yeah.
I'm delayed here. Never mind.
Okay. I was going to say,
you have to come up with an SOP. That whole stuff.
You do, and that can be tough because I don't know about you, but no incident's ever standard. So
no,
it seems kind of backwards to mandate an SOP for an emergency situation because no emergency I've ever run has been standard.
And let's be clear, you could throw those SOPs at us, but we're going to throw them right out the book and get the job done how we need to.
Right. I mean, because we're going to do what
I follow it to the book or to the T. Come on there, Steven.
Sure you did. But,
sorry, safety and life first. I'm not going to deal with the paperwork.
Right. And so but once again, each incident's complex, right? There's always modifiers to every situation, and you can't have an SOP that involves every modifier ever thought of. It's not going to happen. So at a certain point, I think you just need to write a very super vague SOP and move on with life because that's the only way it's going to work.
I know, but as far as OSHA goes, though, you write an SOP, and if it's not direct enough, well, you didn't follow this, you didn't dot your I's and cross your T's. Well, we did, but, it doesn't matter whether it's OSHA or your state-specific OSHA, there's always going to be the unknown that, you didn't follow this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's more like nitpicking after the fact.
Mm-hmm. Armchair quarterbacking on Monday morning.
Yeah, it is.
And that's OSHA's really good for that, though.
I know, but just once again, I know within our own facility, we get that from government organizations all the time. They don't like the way things are written, but it's an after the fact observance, and then we have to rewrite our stuff. I'm sure this is going to be the same kind of thing.
I'm being bad cop. I've been doing that great today, so that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
and you get it.
Yep.
Let's really. We're talking about the negatives. Let's talk about some of the positive side of this whole thing.
Okay.
With the training and the medical surveillance.
Yeah. So those are. The medical surveillance is like such a huge piece. We touched on it earlier, and that's going to be a big thing moving forward. Which, once again, from a responder side of things, I think it's great. I think it's going to enhance the safety, and it's going to catch a lot of problems before they become life-threatening. But from a admin or department side of things, there's going to be a huge cost associated. But let's dive into what's coming down the pipeline that departments are going to have to start moving towards.
So I'll start,
Yeah.
You're looking at the medical program, which does align with the NFPA, the 15, I think it's 1582. Mm-hmm. You have your baseline medical exams, and it's for all responders. Mm-hmm. That baseline is going to stick with you throughout the whole process of your fire career.
Yeah. Which is good. But also, I don't know if every department's been doing that, though. I mean, there might be a lot of rural small departments that don't do that just because of budget.
Absolutely. But it's going to be mandated where you have to have that.
Right.
I understand there's a cost to it, but I think that baseline is going to be a huge factor in a lot of things, and something that can stick with you when you have, let's say, cancer down the road.
But what I think is way more interesting is now that everyone's folded into it, now even your medical responders have to go under this too. So they're now getting the full physicals that only firefighters typically used to get. So that's going to be... So if you had a company that all they did was, let's say, a fire brigade, cool, they've always done this. But if you have a company that did medical, just medical, had a medical team, now they're enrolled in this. They have to follow this, or they have to really disband their team. Which is going to make for some hard choices for a bunch of companies coming up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is a sad part of it, but what you're exposed to it's pennies on the dollar, really.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
For certain. But so it's like I said, it's just going to complicate things, right? Because I think some larger companies, they're not going to bat an eye. They're like, okay, cool, let's do this. We've already done it for a certain group of our responders. Let's just enroll everybody. Mm. But I think it's going to be a hardship for some other industrial teams. And it's going to be interesting to see how it washes out.
It is. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, you touch base on adding in the medical people for those that are specifically medical teams out there. Uh-huh. But there's also some components of this that are going to be a little more rigorous that even like our hazmat team hasn't had to necessarily do.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Talking about comprehensive physical exams.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed. And so it's interesting because outside of work, I'm on a municipal department, and that is the only time I've ever gotten a comprehensive exam. So it's been really interesting. So we get exams at work, don't get me wrong. It's not like we don't do medical surveillance at work, but it's not as in-depth as the one I get from the municipal department.
No, absolutely. And I mean, when you talk about physical exams, we technically do them, but it's nothing in comparison to one that I've been through at a physician before. So
yeah. Yeah, because like my municipal one is ultrasound
Bend
and blood
over,
work and cancer screening. So it's a whole lot of good things. But now this is now being applied from municipal onto industrial as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this is applied.
Oh, absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, we're going to have to do that, every 2 years now?
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, like, I know from a costing perspective, like I asked my municipal department, hey, for funsies, how much does this comprehensive medical check cost? And they were saying they are part of a group that does it, so the costs are a little lowered, but it costs them $800 per person to do it. Which, depending on the size of your team, that can be pretty costly.
Oh, absolutely.
So it can be a significant chunk of change. And once again, it's a safety thing, right? Once again, from an admin side, I feel bad for the companies. It's a budget thing. But from a responder side, I've never been happier because I am sure it is going to catch some things and save some people.
Yep. Now, that also, I believe, is a requirement for anyone who's exposed to combustion products 15 or more times a year.
Right, but that's a good question. So the combustion product thing, is that actually fire, or are we talking like if you go on carbon monoxide calls, does that count? Because technically that's a combustion product. So if you're running like a combination of that, like combustion, like carbon monoxide calls or fires, does that trip it? I think like a little more in-depth talk about that would have to be done.
Oh, absolutely. And then does the line get drawn for certain like industrial teams that have combined capacities for their jobs where it's only on call that those come into play? Or if you're someone who works out in the facility and you deal with those more on a daily basis, does that play a factor in those?
And that's the thing. It's part of why it's a good thing to talk about, because it has to be thought around and about quite heavily, because I don't know if anyone's going to get it perfect going out of the gate, just like anything else. Once you start doing it, that's kind of where you work all the bugs out. And I think there's got to be some sort of grace period where you have time to figure this out, because it's going to be evolving a little bit.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, we've always gotten away with, we didn't have to necessarily apply to all those NFPA standards, especially for the normal job function outside of our ERT team. But with OSHA, that kind of blurs the line where it affects everybody. Yeah.
And then the other thing that was really interesting is, in addition to all that medical, the exams and going through that rigorous baseline testing and the follow-up testing, now there's a whole bunch of new programs that are coming on board too. So like a behavioral health program for ongoing monitoring.
You know, we all need that behavioral health.
What exactly does that entail?
Especially right now, I need a behavioral health specialist because I'm about ready.
I've
heard
some rumors about this behavioral health program possibly having some testing involved.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think it's a good thing because it allows people to have an outlet, right? So it provides counseling, post-incident care, which can be a big thing, like critical incident management for stress. And
I think I'd be inpatient.
You'd be the patient. You'd be the first patient. You'd be the guinea pig. But also referral and crisis care, right? In case you need follow-up stuff. I think it's good to, if you've never had access to it, that this is now bringing it home for a lot of people who never had access to this type of care.
I mean, really, in everything that we do, there's a lot of stress, and it depends on how you place that stress in your brain.
Well, yeah, how you deal with it.
I mean, that can affect everything in your life. Relationships, family, wife, kids, husbands. If you're into that, just everything.
Yeah. Being letting stress get to you will definitely affect your life and can change how you live it. Right. So PTSD is a real thing, and not dealing with it effectively.
Oh, it is, absolutely.
Will totally affect your life and everything in it. So I think these programs are good. But hold on, that's not all. So we're not done with the medical side of things.
No, there's that health and fitness program too. You know, a trained health and fitness officer.
Oh my God!
Randy now maybe that one.
Maybe I do like working out. But because the crazy thing is now you have to have criteria for fitness for duty, which a lot of places never had that, and now this
No.
applies to
No, we
everyone:
didn't.
medical, hazmat, fire, and technical rescue. So how do you determine how they're ready?
We've all watched those YouTube videos of some unfit firefighter
Yes.
coming to save somebody, but yeah, I don't see a downside to that.
No, I think it's a good thing too, but I think you're going to have a bunch of butthurt people about it. Because
you will,
I'm more
absolutely.
interested in seeing what that actual baseline is for the requirement. Who defines that? Is that an individual company thing, or is OSHA going to define it for us?
It might be
Again,
also one of those things
you have a lot of smaller departments that can't even find the people now, and so they're accepting anybody.
Yeah.
So that's where this one does touch few little soft spots within people.
I agree. I think you're right. For those people, those departments that are having a hard time finding people in
Steven.
general, I don't think they're going to want to cut anybody. So, and Steve,
No, they're not.
I kind of agree that I don't think there's going to be a general rule unless it's handed down from OSHA, like they put in like the next revision of this. But
Right.
I think it's going to be up to the authority having jurisdiction, the AHJ. They'll say this is what it
Exactly, yep.
needs to be, which will probably be so variable between department to department, it's not going to matter.
Yep.
So, including industrial ones. So, but yeah, so like I said, this new standard incorporates a lot of things, right? So mental health, physical fitness standard. It also requires it requires you to provide an opportunity for people to work out while on duty, which is also very interesting. You're paying them to work out.
Ooh.
So, I likes it.
So I can take time off. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Again, like we said, these enhanced medical and wellness programs are great, but they have raised concerns about the financial strain on the smaller departments.
Yeah.
And even there's still stations out there.
Yeah. But like I said, so a lot of changes, right? So especially medical side of things, especially incorporating everybody into this new standard now. So a lot of things coming down the pipeline, including forcing everyone to use basically like ICS, which we didn't quite touch on, which is really interesting because we use ICS in a lot of things, but not medical. But now it even applies somehow to medical teams and medical calls, which I don't know how that would work. But
we
I
do
think
in a
it's-
sense, but just not in the bigger
we have a
picture
hierarchy
like we do on other calls.
and we work it like that, but I don't think medical calls and ICS really work. I mean, unless you're talking like a mass casualty thing, and your bread and butter medical calls, I don't see that happening.
No, I agree, Randy. A smaller call, difficulty breathing, you're not going to necessarily have an ICS.
Yeah.
You do, but you don't.
Yeah. But so like I said, bright side, none of these rules apply yet. Right. So these are all proposed.
So we still have a
things.
couple things to talk about, though. What about the reporting and documentation?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Well, once again, I guess it goes back to how well your team has ever done this, right? So, like, for us, our side of things, we've always documented things. But now, you're right, there's a change to the standard that will require employers to establish procedures for reporting emergency incidents and documenting actions taken, which we've always kind of done. We've always written an after-action report on all the things we've done. And so we've always had
But
a
you
paper
need to
trail.
maintain those training, exposure, and medical records.
That's true.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. So I guess my question to that would be like, how long do you got to keep those too, right? Is this like a 7-year cycle, like a lot of industrial side paperwork, or is this like lifetime?
I was say, is
I
this
don't think they put a
goes?
limitation on that yet, because a lifetime, it should be a lifetime, because if I was exposed to something when I started 25 years ago,
Yeah.
all right, so now I have cancer.
Well,
All right, prove you're exposed to that.
Right.
Okay, well, I can't.
Or does it fall under something more like where our company went with your career life cycle plus 30 years?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which that would
exactly.
make sense. Because
Yep, I agree.
how many mercury calls have we been on? Just,
Certain lose count.
zero, right? Zero. But
Oh yeah, geez.
just saying. So maybe lifetime plus 30 makes sense, but I don't think that's really called out yet. But having that kind of documentation, having record what you did, who did it, now you got to be thorough, where maybe before you could kind of just get by. So yeah, that's a new thing in this as well, Jeff. You're right.
I mean, I do understand that this is going to cause a lot of
I think it's going to cause a lot of heartache, a lot of heartburn with people. But like I said, this was proposed back in 2024, right? It's been under review most of 2024 up until I think the first couple months of this year, and that public review period's done. And now it's up to OSHA to determine when to implement it. It's supposed to be implemented this year sometime, but OSHA's been very quiet about when that's actually going to happen. So, but once again, when it does, it's a wide range of changes. I gotta imagine there's gonna be some. I gotta imagine there's gonna be some grace period for implementing the new standards. So my guess is, even if they roll it out, say this year, let's say December, my guess is they'll have to give a year or two for everyone to kind of get on board with all the changes, because it is just a raft of them, a whole bunch.
It's gonna be longer than that.
You think so? I think it's gonna be more than a 2-year grace period.
I think so.
Maybe.
Really, especially with some of these rural departments, they don't have that funding. They really can't afford to do that.
I agree.
That's where it'll become interesting.
Yeah, because then it's going to drive some places out, right? Some industrial departments out, some municipal departments under.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So
then we'll go towards more consolidation, which we've seen some experiences of that, whether it's good or bad.
Yep. So you might get metro fire departments. So we'll see. But
so really closing thoughts. The proposed overall represents one of the most significant updates in the OSHA approach to emergency responders, especially in decades. Whether you're municipal or part of an industrial team, effect will be felt across the board.
Yep, I agree.
You like it or not.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's left out on this one. So
no, departments and organizations should begin reviewing their consider corrective alignments within the proposed requirements, especially in the areas of PPE, training, medical surveillance. I mean, those are the huge ones.
I would agree. So.
Do you thoughts there, Randy and Steve?
Like I said, I think some smaller teams and some smaller municipal departments have a lot of work to do. Right? They should be putting an eye on how to implement some of these things, adopt them early before they're forced to after it's already passed. But then once again, OSHA has the right to not go through with parts of it or all of it. It's up to them on what to implement and how, because they took in that public comment period for a very long time, and for all I know, they could be making changes to what they originally proposed, and it might look completely different when they implement it.
And that is very true. So, I mean, we're only looking at the changes that are proposed, so this is only the proposed changes.
Yep. So, but like I said, we won't know what the actual things are until they come down the pipeline at us, but we know what OSHA wants to do. So I think it's up to departments to kind of start gravitating that way if they have the ability to, or start gaining budget traction for it now. That's the only way that they're going to get through it.
I think a lot of the changes are going to be beneficial, but
I agree.
They are not without a cost.
I also agree. It's going to greatly inflate budgets just from the standards alone that they have to comply with.
No, just one of those things that we need to start looking at to be prepared for down the road, so we don't get blindsided like we have with some other implementations.
Yep, agreed. I think that about wraps us up, fellas. What do you think?
Steven, have on tap for next week?
So I believe next week we might be possibly talking to a special guest about Jeffrey's favorite topic. Bulging in the drums.
I thought you were going to say swearing like a pirate.
Well, that's his second favorite.
I do that very well. I don't need any help with that area.
I'm looking forward to that. So a special guest next week. I think it's the first time we've had one on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Be phenomenal.
You guys will be in for a treat.
Yep.
And
you'll be in for something.
And Jeff, until then, how can our viewers out there reach us with any comments or concerns they might have?
Hey, you may contact us at hazmatharder@gmail.com. Holy hell, I did it.
Yay!
Round of applause. Come on.
And until next time, guys, we will see you later. And hazmat harder.
Yep, hazmat harder.
I'll try to get a haircut.